This program presented by Sansella Ultra Thins, Ford Motor Company and David's Food Stores.
I'm not high enough. Oh, geez, I'm rocketing.
Just keep pumping that throttle.
Is Jimbo set to meet his maker?
Jimbo!
Big Sky, Tuesday.
Tonight's news brought to you by the new
Hyundai
Excel.
Ten's late news with Tracey Spicer.
Tonight, beer, wine and spirit prices set to rise as tax confusion worsens.
It will unless the individual states agree to refund the prepaid component of the tax.
Another horrific plane crash. And helping hands. Sporting legend Raylene Boyle may yet get to keep her Olympic medal. Good evening. Beer, wine and spirit prices are set to rise by Monday because of the worsening tax row between the state and federal governments. Wholesale prices have already gone up 15% and consumers will be the next to pay.
The tax change that was supposed to cost us nothing is now forcing up drink prices.
A low alcohol beer, anything less than 3.5%, we should see about $2.20 increase in the price of a case of 24.
Brewers have already added an extra 15% on their invoices to retailers. It may soon be passed on to customers.
It will unless the individual states agree to refund the prepaid component of the tax.
The Hotels Association complained to Treasury officials in Canberra that hundreds of millions of dollars in tax already paid was not being refunded by state governments.
Well, Treasury's got a different view. They're saying that it's paid retrospectively.
There's certainly an argument there. I mean, it could be said that effectively the states, by holding on to this tax, are double dipping.
By late this afternoon, the Queensland government had acted.
Any licence fees paid to us will be refunded. So in no way will those wholesalers be out of pocket, and therefore no price increases should result.
And in Victoria, the government announced a range of subsidies would be paid so prices would not rise.
For low alcohol liquor, low alcohol beers and any other low alcohol products, we will be introducing a subsidy arrangement, which means there shouldn't be any price increase.
Petrol will also be subsidised. The crisis began when the High Court outlawed state fees on petrol, alcohol and tobacco, and the federal government argues that any problems with its temporary solution to that are the responsibility of the states. Paul Smith, 10 News.
A Sydney man has been charged with trying to extort money from the husband of kidnap victim Kerry Whelan. It's alleged he demanded $30,000 from Bernard Whelan in phone calls which devastated the grieving executive.
John Hall is the man allegedly behind the callous threats to Bernie Whelan. In phone calls to police, he allegedly claimed he kidnapped Kerry, but wouldn't say where she was until he'd spoken with her husband. A phone demand for $30,000 followed. The police prosecutor said last Tuesday, Hall allegedly applied more pressure. Mr. Whelan was absolutely devastated when the defendant phoned and held out hope that Mrs. Whelan was still alive. If the money was not paid in full, she'd be delivered to him in a body bag. A further call allegedly warned Bernie Whelan that if he contacted the police, he'd be sent 3 of his wife's fingers with the rings attached. The threats followed the businessman's emotional plea to the kidnappers.
If they have any decency at all, I'd ask them to tell us where Kerry is.
Operation Bel Air investigators traced some of the calls to Hall's Hebersham home units. John Hall's solicitor asked the magistrate not to treat him as a serious criminal. He described him as a stupid opportunist who'd shown a total disregard for Bernard Whelan's emotional state. He said that with his de facto pregnant with their 3rd child, he'd lost their savings gambling and out of shame was trying to save himself. The de facto's mother provided a $5,000 bail guarantee.
He's innocent. I don't want to talk.
Hall's due back in court later this month. Harry Potter, 10 News.
There have been angry scenes outside an Adelaide court after the appearance of 2 people charged over a vicious murder. The couple is accused of killing a popular gay DJ.
Tempers flared as the father of one of the accused hid out at waiting media crews. The man then chased a photographer trying to snatch his camera. His son, 23-year-old Sam Menendez from Croydon, had just appeared in court charged with the murder of club DJ Jeff Plew. Also charged is 21-year-old Claudia Cozzi from Glenelg North. Mr Plew's body was discovered in his Seaton unit on Tuesday morning. Police later described his injuries as horrific. The 39-year-old had received a death threat, the words "You're dead" carved into his front door. Menendez and Cozzi were arrested in a car on Port Road early this morning.
Late yesterday we received some fairly vital information. We reacted to that information and that resulted in the overnight arrests.
Mr Plew's friends and members of Adelaide's gay community were in the Adelaide Magistrates Court this afternoon when Menendez and Cozzi appeared. Their lawyer made no application for bail and the two were remanded in custody. They will next appear in court late next month. Mark Adenall, 10 News.
A cargo plane has crashed on a busy highway in Miami, killing all 4 on board. It's not yet known why the DC-8 plummeted out of the sky.
The DC-8 nosedived moments after takeoff from Miami Airport.
Looked in my rearview mirror and this plane just came right across the street. I mean, it was like a ball of fire.
It careered across a busy road and came to rest against a warehouse in a light industrial district.
The airplane started to take off and it lost its balance, so the 2 engines were on fire. As it was trying to take off, its nose went down and it took the asphalt off the ground and started lifting up cars 20 feet up in the air.
The 4 people on board are presumed dead. 3 bodies have so far been recovered. With flaming wreckage and a devastating crash scene, authorities feared a major disaster, but only 2 people on the ground have been treated for minor injuries.
Let me say that we indeed were very, very lucky. This could have been a much worse incident for this community.
The DC-8 was owned by Fine Air, a cargo supplier that flies between Miami and Central America. Flight 101 was on its way to the Dominican Republic with almost 40,000 kilograms of textiles and clothing on board. As fire crews doused the crash site and sifted through wreckage, the investigation began.
The conversation between the control tower and the pilot was normal. He was cleared for takeoff. There was no conversation about any emergencies.
The black box flight data recorders have been recovered. They landed outside the fire zone and are already in Washington. It's hoped they'll provide clues into the cause of the crash. In the United States, Tim Schilberger, 10 News.
Investigations into the Korean Airlines crash on Guam this week are showing human error was the most likely cause. Furious relatives of the 227 victims have abused airline officials about the delay in identifying bodies. Tearful relatives were taken to the crash site, where investigators continue to pick through the wreckage. An 11-year-old Japanese girl pulled from the burning aircraft has publicly thanked her rescuer, the governor of Guam, clutching his hand as she did. Her distraught father says he believes the girl's mother died in order to save her daughter. Former sprint queen Raylene Boyle may get to keep her hard-won Olympic silver medal. A fund is being set up after the sporting legend announced she was selling the medal to cover medical expenses from her battle with cancer.
The Raylene Boyle Silver Medal Benefit Fund is being established by the Sport Australia Hall of Fame. Boyle was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1985 and served on the board until May this year. She decided to sell one of her silver medals to pay for her fight against cancer.
Oh, it's tough. I mean, they're part of me. It's not quite like cutting a leg or an arm off, but they're very symbolic parts of my life.
A fundraising lunch will be held in Sydney next month, attended by sporting stars past and present. The highlight, an auction of her medal from the 1972 Munich Games.
I think because of all the hype and the publicity about this medal over the last couple of days, I think it'll go for somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000.
The money will really probably help the fact that I'm not allowed to work at this stage and I've just got to survive somehow.
Part of the money will go to cancer research.
She's clearly a national treasure, and that someone who can go through what she's been through and yet not think of herself first is quite amazing.
James Sutherland, 10 News.
After one of the most tragic weeks in the nation's history, Thredbo is getting back to what it does best. A huge dump of snow and full bookings have lifted the mood at Thredbo. But for some at the village, returning to a normal life isn't easy.
For Thredbo, this is a little bit of Christmas. A mammoth snowfall has returned this village of sorrow to a winter wonderland. The big dump began last night, sending hundreds of people into the streets where they let off steam with a vigorous snow fight. But as well as morale, this snow will also boost the coffers. Since last week's landslide, Thredbo has been stung by cancellations and uncertainty. This dump its best chance yet of bringing the people back.
I think at the moment the snow is actually providing a nice change. We've had very warm weather during the week. There's been no snow around.
But for others, the moving on is proving tough. Staff here were called to a meeting last night and told it's safe to return to their hillside lodges. A list was handed out. Only 8 of the 30 lodges originally evacuated are still off limits. But many at the meeting were nervous, demanding assurances there'd be no repeat of last week. They were offered counselling and regular checks by geologists. Otherwise, they were told they'd have to move to Jindabyne.
There's some people that are needing some ongoing counselling and some support, and we think that you know, they make some choices about what they want to do, but they'll be supported through that process.
For the first time, the meeting was also given the suspected reason for the landslip, an earth-filling operation some time ago, which had been undermined by water as much as 8 metres below the surface. But if anything can restore the confidence of this shaken community, it's this. The new snow is helping to cover the hillside that has been home to so much misery this week, helping Thredbo get back to what it does best, making people happy. In Thredbo, Tracey Chamberlain, 10 News.
Ahead in 10's Late News, Evidence Australia is making real progress in the battle against AIDS. Revelations about Di's new Egyptian boyfriend. And a row over just who is the world's oldest person.
Tom Cruise is the man with a thirst for revenge.
What you leave Borland for?
Australia's sensational Nicole Kidman is the woman with a taste for adventure.
Come with me.
Together they set sail for the country of their dreams.
I think I like America. If it's one for me, Fogboy, you wouldn't even be here.
From director Ron Howard.
The race I'm going, they'll bring them out to me.
Comes a cinematic masterpiece.
Your money in that pocket's and nothing more. I've earned this.
The unforgettable Far and Away, 8:30 Sunday.
Remember the days when you had the wind in your hair and it didn't cost you a cent? Well, those days are back, because you can still get a Pulsar LX sedan or hatch with free air for only $19,990. That's right, only $19,990 with free air. So run down to your nearest Nissan dealer now.
It can't be done. The strapper's right. He's meaner than a Tyson fight. How do you feel? City slicker. Oh, that'll bruise. Still want to be a jackaroo. How do you feel? Up again. Can't take a grip. Ooh, this is some apprenticeship. Oh, no. How do you feel?
Introducing the new all-wheel drive Terios from Daihatsu. With twin airbags, the interior ride and comfort of a sedan. High levels of maneuverability, safety, and visibility. Terios, it's another great escape from Daihatsu. That's who.
A runaway garbage truck has caused chaos at a busy Melbourne intersection. It's understood the garbage truck's brakes failed, causing it to plough down a hill and smash everything in its path. The truck ended up collecting 7 cars and a bus. Rescue workers say it was a miracle the driver of a Volkswagen wasn't killed when her car became wedged between the truck and the bus. 4 people were taken to hospital with minor injuries. Almost a year after a cliff collapse in Western Australia claimed 9 lives, families of the victims are to sue local authorities for damages. The cliff collapsed on a group of people watching a school surfing carnival south of Perth last September. Now the family's lawyer says he's confident a civil action will succeed, despite the coroner finding the deaths were an accident. 2 state government departments and the local council face a lawsuit. The amount being claimed hasn't been finalised. A legal blow today for Frank Guilford, the man whose sister Yvonne was murdered in Saudi Arabia. An Adelaide judge has stopped him from seeking the death penalty for the 2 nurses accused of Yvonne's murder.
A Saudi court could decide as early as Sunday whether British women Lucille McLaughlin and Deborah Parry are guilty of murder. They're charged with killing their colleague Yvonne Guilford at a Saudi hospital. If convicted, the nurses could be sentenced to death under Islamic law at the request of Ms Guilford's family. But in a South Australian court today, a remarkable attempt to block such a move.
Well, one doesn't know what the effect will be, as there has not even been a verdict in Saudi Arabia yet.
The British women want an injunction preventing Miss Guilford's brother, Frank, from telling the Saudi court both he and his mother want the death penalty. The nurse's lawyer, Dick Whitington, claims 84-year-old Muriel Guilford suffers from Alzheimer's disease and is not mentally competent. But the Guilford's lawyer, Michael Boylan, says the South Australian court has no jurisdiction in the case. Acting Justice King barred Mr Guilford from making any further statements to the Saudi court on the death penalty. Mr Guilford's also been ordered to inform Saudi authorities that the South Australian Supreme Court is to rule on the mental competency of his mother. Even if the nurses are convicted on Sunday, the South Australian injunction blocks Frank Guilford from immediately seeking the death penalty. Mark Smith, 10 News.
Diana is heading for Bosnia on her campaign against landmines, just as her private life is becoming a minefield. British newspapers are speculating today about a romance with millionaire filmmaker Dodi Al-Fad, son of the Egyptian owner of Harrods department store. Reports say she spent 5 days with him cruising the Mediterranean. Photos of them kissing are the subject of a fierce newspaper bidding war. And Diana reportedly had dinner with Al-Fad in his London apartment on the eve of a trip to Sarajevo to highlight the plight of landmine victims. The death last week of the 122-year-old French woman, considered the oldest person in the world, has reopened the record books. In Brazil, they say this woman is the world's oldest living person. Maria is thought to be 126 years old. She attributes her long life to her faith in God. But the Guinness Book of Records doesn't have much faith in her baptism certificate, the only proof the former slave can come up with. But Brazilians still regard Maria as a national treasure. Still to come in 10's Late News, more trouble at the big Australian. Tina Arena set to launch album number 2. And in sports tonight, violence flares again at the basketball. Turkish fans vent their anger after losing to Yugoslavia in the World Under-23 quarter-finals.
Saturday, a woman is murdered in broad daylight, but the man who pulled the trigger is still at large.
I'm worried every day.
And they call it the sixth sense. But what is the magical bond that exists between mother and child? Unsolved Mysteries, 8:30 Saturday.
Because I only drink in moderation. Because I like a bit of grunt.
Because sometimes she's taller.
She's taller.
Because what drives you drives us.
Now remember, when we see the new arrival, no touching, all right?
Hey, all right.
They say he's just like his dad.
Really? There he is.
Oh, look at that old beef patty.
And the special sauce. And the sesame seed bun.
Couldn't you just eat it?
Introducing Son of Mac, a new burger from McDonald's. Tastes like a Big Mac for only $1.50.
She's changing his napkin.
Oh, what cute little buns.
The Son of Mac, only $1.50.